been a couple of good days, a lot of just like going down the street, enjoying the wind, getting wet every once in a while, enjoying good speeds. On any given day, for the most part, I'm always having fun and enjoying just biking around Cambridge. Sometimes being a biker means encountering crazy traffic, bad drivers, good drivers, and also encountering pedestrians that don't really know how to interact with bikers, so they can be just as angry as any good or bad driver.
This is the Mass Avenue, Somerville Avenue area just after 8 this morning. A man was struck and killed after colliding with an 18-wheeler, a tractor-trailer.
A woman riding her bike in Inman Square was hit by an opening door, which sent her out of control and straight into a truck. She later died from her injury.
R.I.P. Amanda Phillips. Please watch out for cyclists.
Once I almost bumped into a parked car. I think that was my most scary incident, riding a bike.
And I bumped the back of his car, and I lost my balance a little bit, and I did fall off my bike.
Biking, a great mode of transportation for everyday commuters. Some bikers say biking has become a part of their lives, while others say sometimes biking becomes challenging for them. Why do people bike and why they don't? What has the city been doing to make biking less challenging? Let's go and find it.
So the city supports it for community goals, but people also have been asking because they themselves would like to bicycle more. We know that about 2/3 of the population in Cambridge actually owns bikes, so many people bike for different reasons.
I use biking as a means of transportation. I use it to get to work, I use it to go to college, I use it to go to like hang out with friends, I used it to pretty much do everything in my life. It became my main means of transportation. So besides using the local T or bus system, biking was pretty much my other way of walking in life.
I do like biking in general because it gives me a chance to have some exercise every day.
It can be a workout some days. It definitely beats going to the gym in my opinion.
It's environment friendly and I don't have to worry about parking. It's really convenient.
There are economic benefits because people who use biking as a form of transportation actually are more likely to shop locally, and it supports the local economy. There are equity reasons because bicycling is actually one of the most affordable forms of transportation.
Biking for recreation, I think Cambridge is still a pretty good place. There are a lot of bike lanes, along the Charles River, which is like for fun. But if I have to commute every day on busy streets, I think it's still a challenge for a lot of people who are not really expert bikers.
When anybody's trying to just start out and try to use a bike, if they're trying to use it as an everyday activity to get from point A to point B, they think about all these little things: cars, pedestrians, traffic. It's really hard for people to actually get on a bike if they feel like they're going to get hit by a car, and that's really the main concern.
Once I almost bumped into a parked car because there was a passenger who was didn't notice that I had to kind of pass the car, and he was about to open the door, and I kind of barely made a sharp move and was lucky not to hit the car door.
The closest time that I ever had an incident was when I was trying to check behind me, pretty much check my rear view, and at the same time I didn't notice that a car in front of me was stopping. and I bumped the back of his car, and I lost my balance a little bit, and I did fall off my bike. The funny thing was that the car that I hit, I thought he was going to be angry that I hit him, because I mean, he did stop in the middle of like the street, but I could have noticed him if I was looking ahead. But the car kind of like sped super really fast, thinking, oh, this guy got hurt, so I might as well just avoid this whole thing, because his car was fine. But again, it really just goes back to that idea of these like loose connections between drivers of cars and drivers of bikes.
Sometimes there is no good biking lane, right? And then there are a lot of cars parked in those streets, so I have to really keep an eye on the road and if a car is coming behind my back. But there are some streets where you do have biking lanes, and I feel more comfortable in those streets. I had at least one friend who was also very nervous going to this street, even though they know how to bike.
I've definitely had friends that have gone from biking to stop biking because they just either don't trust other drivers or don't trust that the continued changes in the city keep getting better, or that really bike laws in general won't improve to actually help bikers.
The community has asked the city to do more in order to make bicycling more convenient and safe for them as a mode of transportation. We have been doing that over the last 25 years or so, working more and more. We have doubled the number of bicycle facility miles in the city since about 20 years ago, and we've also seen the numbers of people out on the streets has increased.
If you fix the rules on the bike lanes in a well-designed way, I think it's going to be easier for both car riders and bike riders to just follow the rules and drive safely.
There is an interesting correlation, not just here, but in places around the world, where the higher numbers of people who are biking is correlated with lower crash rates and safer cities. And we think that there's a couple of things going on. One has to do with the physical design of cities, and when cities are designed to support the more vulnerable road users, and that's people walking and bicycling, you immediately are focused on creating road design that means that there's space, and there's also a lot of emphasis towards lowering speeds of motor vehicles. Roads are safe for every user when you have low speeds in a city. And the city reduced the citywide speed limit a couple years ago to 25 miles an hour, and we're going to be reducing some zones to 20 miles an hour. And when you have those low speeds, then you are less likely to be in a crash, and if there's a crash, it's less likely to be severe. The police just came out with some statistics in Cambridge. In 2018, we've had the lowest number of crashes in the city for the last 10 years, and for people who are bicycling, the percentage has gone down dramatically. We very much think that that's related to the speeds.
A big challenge is people see bikers as just this like enemy of pedestrians or enemy of cars. People need to become definitely more understanding, a little bit more aware, and at least need to understand that bikers really aren't there to just be like, just antagonize them. They're not there to disrupt any transportation or disrupt traffic. They're just people trying to get from point A to point B, just like any other pedestrian or any other driver. And then when it comes to safety, people don't always use helmets. People are just like, well, should I use a helmet? Should I not use a helmet?
I definitely seen bike riders who are not being very safe, right? So I think in both sides there has to be like some consideration.
More education in terms of like people learning about bikers in the city would definitely help. Maybe more education towards the community on what biking laws are and what bikers are represent and how they can like really help, even if it's like a couple of community activities.
We have a lot of community outreach and engagement. We have a number of different publications that are distributed in a variety of ways. We have maps, we have a street code, we have a magazine, we have pamphlets and brochures on our programs, and these are distributed at public events and at public buildings and mailed to households. We also do courses and classes so that any adult who is a resident of Cambridge can come for free to classes about biking in the city, how do I fix my bike, how do I use the Bike Share Blue Bike system, and we've had a couple of thousand people who have been trained that way. We also have a new Safe Routes to School program so that children in the Cambridge public schools are taught about road safety, they're taught how to ride a bike.
When people talk to me about the idea of like, how can you be a biker in such a crazy community, even though it has changed so much, I definitely have seen some changes in policy.
So we have a process right now where we're looking at updating the Cambridge Bicycle Plan that involved maybe thousands of people in the city who were giving input into what they would like to see. The plan is not just the physical infrastructure, but it talks about our programs that we have that support bicycling. So Blue Bikes is a fabulous bike sharing program. It is a publicly owned system that enables people to take a bike from one place to the other and dock it. Over 20,000 people are regular annual members. We also have an income eligible program, so for people who have income challenges, it's a very affordable option. It's only $5 a month, which is less expensive than any other mode that you can imagine.
If there is like one thing to conclude is the roads need to be safer. It could be done in maybe different ways, like having lanes just for bikes where you cannot drive car on the bike lane. Something like that will make it safer.
Western Avenue is one where we have a curb separated, completely separated bike facility. But some of the more residential streets where there's lower volumes and there aren't as high numbers of buses and trucks and there's not as high speeds, you can have a more shared street environment, but one where you really are ensuring that speeds are low through traffic calming measures.
I would say just keep increasing the bike lanes. I think there are a lot of streets that could use more bike lanes.
You can see various projects that are in design that would be of interest. And then of course there are projects that are in construction. So we have the Watertown Cambridge Greenway, which should be opening pretty soon out in the western part of the city. Inman Square has started construction. That's going to be a little bit painful in terms of construction for a couple of years, but when it's done, it's going to be a lot better and more comfortable for all users. When you're retrofitting cities, here as in other places, it just takes time to actually go through the design process and get a lot of input from all users of the road and make sure that we design as best as we can.
I'd say around 2019 at this point, there's definitely a lot more bike lanes. There's definitely a lot more understanding from people about the idea that bikers are here, that people commute to work through bikes. So there's definitely more understanding from the people and some understanding from drivers. I think those are definitely helping, and I think more of that, just continued support from that could definitely help bikers. So it's making the streets easier to bike in, and the little communication between bikers and pedestrians and drivers of cars to definitely help make a city fun and easier to bike in.